Good afternoon, everybody. This is the second lecture about object-oriented and C#. Last time we did is that we created a class called ball, and it had few methods and attributes. If you look at it, here's the class. We have one called, this is the class name, class, and we had few attributes, x, y, z, x, y, and the size, and my brush. And we have a couple extra attributes internally for the class. It's called the value y and the value x, which allow you to move object on the screen. We have two methods, one of them called draw, and then one of them called move. Today, we want to modify this class to make it more like a real object that has things called constructors. And constructors are used to initialize. When you create the object, you initialize it. And there are two types of constructor. One of them is a default constructor, which basically the same name as the class. It's a method like this, but it does not return any value. Here, when we define a method, we say public void draw. The void is a return value. But a constructor is the name, the same, it's a method, the same name as the class, which will be in this case ball, and does not return any value. There is no return value. So that is a constructor. The default constructor, in addition to that, does not receive any value. So a default constructor is a method that does not return any value and has no parameters, no input. All right? So we want to create one method, a default constructor, and another one is a non-default constructor. The non-default constructor is the same as default constructor, with the only difference is that it receives values, it receives parameter. And you can have multiple of those constructors. Well, today we're going to cover only one constructor. Okay? All right. So to create a constructor, you say public, and the name of the class is what? Ball, right? Then you open close bracket. And the reason that you see it this way, no parameters inside, that is because it is a default constructor. So we call this, if we want to put comments here, we call this default constructor. All right? What do you do usually in a default constructor? In a default constructor, you put the value that you want when the user or another programmer try to create this object. So if they don't give me any values, okay, I'm going to give you value from my side. And I decide on what these values are. So I have four attributes, the x, y, z, x, y, and size, and my brush. So I need to do what? I need to initialize those to give them values. So if you don't give me anything, I'm going to say, okay, fine, don't give me anything. So I'm going to say x equal 20, because I don't want it to be in the upper left corner, in the 0, 0. And y is I'm going to make it also maybe 50, my value, anything I want. And size will be 20. And my brush, the color of the ball, equal to what? Equal brushes. And I'm going to give you a red color because I like, my favorite color is red, right? So these are what? The value that you get every time you create the object if you don't give me a parameter, right? Now let's go back to the class, my form 1, and look what happens if we didn't assign any values, right? Let's go back to my form 1. Here is my form 1, right? I created 3 balls here. All right. So these are called my brush. because I created one before in a different class. We have two, right? I'm gonna delete that. And these are the two. Yeah. So this is what we had before. So when I do this, I say red ball equal new ball. What's happening now? What am I calling here? I am calling the default constructor. If I have one. Let's go back to the ball class. Do I have a default constructor or not? Yes, we just created one, right? This is my default constructor now. It's called public ball, right? So when I go back to my form, I say red ball equal new ball. It will call the default constructor that I created. If I don't do this, if I don't give it any values, what would be the initial values? The values that I put in this default constructor, which is 20, 50, 20, and red, right? Let's go back to the form and then just try it. I'm going to comment this out, all this. So the only thing I've done in this class is what? To call that default constructor. Red ball equal new ball. What should I expect to see on the screen? I should expect to see a ball that starts at point 20 and x20 and y50. The size is 20 and what? The brush is red. To show you that this is what's happening, I'm going to put a debug point. I'm going to debug this class. I'm going to stop at this point here to show you that this is what's actually happening. So when I run it, when I call that, when I go in here, and I'm going to put a debug point here. Okay? So you'll see. When I do this, it will jump, it take me to the default constructor and assign me the values. So now if I run it, let's watch what happens. This, I am in the class what? This is my form 1, waiting here, right? Now if I say run, to the next breakpoint, which is this one here, the small red, say run to the next breakpoint. Where is my next breakpoint? It will be in the ball class. You see that? Right now, if I step over, x becomes 20, y becomes 50, size becomes 20, and then my brush would be red. If I run now, because I do it only once, only when I created, when I did the constructor. If I run now, you'll see on your form. Oh no, not yet, because I created two. I have two of them, so because I have two objects. Okay, we get an error. This hide null exception. Interesting. All right. Let's stop that for a minute. Oh, because I didn't delete this. Do you see these ball, blue ball? Actually, I created 3 balls in the previous class. So let's get rid of these ones. Okay, that's why you get that null. It's funny that it should have not actually compiled. Okay, but let's run it again. I'm gonna remove these breakpoints. Okay. So we don't stop on them all the time. You already saw what I mean. Now that ball, the red, it is red, right? And it's size 20. I didn't do that. When you created the object, automatically it did that for you. You got the idea? So when we go back here in the default constructor, public ball, every time you create the object, you didn't assign value to it, you will get a ball of position 20, 50, and size 20, and the color is red. So that is what happens with the default constructor. What about non-default constructor? The difference is you can create the object, but instead of I giving you values, you have the option of you sending me values that you want. Right? If you go back to this class, form 1, instead of saying redball.x equal 150, now I can say, okay, all you need to do, just create the ball and then tell me what do you want, and then I will assign it. All right? So we're going to go back to the form ball, and then now we want to create a non-default constructor. How we do it, I'll copy paste the same guy, control copy, and then control V. But now I need to pass values to it. What are the values that are required? X, Y, size, and then the brush. So I will define int X, int Y, and then int size, and then finally, or S, let's make it S, and then brush B. Instead of this, I need to take these values that is being sent to me and assign them to the attributes that belong to the class. So instead of all of this, I need to say, I'll delete this. I have to say, for example, X equal X. But what is this X and what is this X? This X, it should be the X that belong to the class. And this X is the X that you sent me. So what do I do to differentiate between the two? I have to use a keyword called this. So when I say this dot X, what does that mean now? I see it says, oh, you're talking about the X that belong to this class equal to the X that you sent me. So this X is the one that you sent me, and then this X belong to the class because I say this dot X. Now you could have avoided that. You can give it, for example, X1. Then you don't have to worry about this anymore. But if you sometimes you see this keyword this, so you need to understand what it means. Then next is to do what? We do the same thing with this for Y. We say this dot Y equal to what? Equal the Y that is being sent to us, which is this one in the method, the constructor. Finally, we need, well, not finally, we still have S size equal to S. Why I don't have to say this dot size? Because S is not the same name as size. If this was size again, then we'll have to do this dot size equal to size. Then finally, my brush equal to what? Equal to B. Again, I don't have to use the keyword this. All right. So now I have, how many constructors do I have? One is default and one is what? Non-default. So the non-default constructor, if you notice the difference between the two, the definition, the heading, this one has no parameters. It has the same name as a class. It does not return any values. And this one here, the same name of the class, same name of the class, does not return any value. And it has these list of attributes that are used in the constructor. That's why it's called the non-default constructor. So how many ways can I create my class? I have two ways to create the class now. Either just use the non-default constructor, the default constructor, or I can use the non-default constructor. To test it, let's go back to our class. And notice I have, again, I'm going to comment this out. Here, if I do it this way, what's happening here? Which constructor I'm calling here? Default or non-default? Default. I know you're shy to speak, to make your sound, but it's okay. I know you know the answer. All right, so this is what? This is the default type. If I use the same default, notice here the same default constructor. How many balls will I be creating? 2. What about the position and the color? The same. So you'll see only one ball on the screen. Why? Because every time you create the object, you will give it values 20, 50, 20, and red color. If you want to customize it, if you want to make your own ball with different size and then different colors, which constructor would you have to use? The non-default constructor. All right. So if I run it now, notice you get one ball. It's actually 2 balls, but they're actually on top of each other. That's why you're not seeing it. All right. All right. Got the idea? Now, if I want to I want to customize the second one. First of all, it's called green ball, so it should be red, right? So I'm going to give it, notice when I put values here, it'll tell me what needed here. So x, which is what, sorry, I have to put an integer value, right? 100, for example. Notice, it gives me the list of attributes that are required. Integer, 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 and a brush. So here I can say 100 again, and then here I can say what? Size is 30, and then the color should be brush green instead of that. All right. Do I need to do these steps? Do I need to do this anymore? No. Why? Because I already send them the value, and in the default constructor does the assignment for me. I don't need to set the attributes. If you want to change it, you can change it later on, but you don't have to change it now. All right. So now let's go ahead and run it. Now I have 2. One bigger than the other. Got the idea? What if you want to create another blue ball? What do I have to do? Can I do this, for example? Can I say, I already defined one called blue ball in my class. Do you see that? B ball, right? Can I just say, just copy this one, control copy, and then paste it underneath. And then this one's going to be called blue ball, B ball, right? And instead of this, I'm going to start at position 200. And instead of the size 30, I'm going to make it 25. And instead of green, I want to make it blue. So how many objects do I have now? 3. Would this appear on the screen if I just define it here? Where are we doing the drawing and the moving? In the timer. Let's take a look at the timer. Which things I'm moving the red ball and the green ball, and I'm drawing the red ball and the green ball. But if I wanted to move the blue ball, I have to do what? B ball dot move, right? So I do the same thing. Control copy and Control V. And instead of that, we say B. And here again to draw it. Otherwise, if you don't draw it, it does not appear on the screen. Okay? So move that works, but if you don't draw it, it's not going to appear on the screen. Okay? So now I have 3 objects to draw. Green, blue, and red. And if you run it, you'll see you have 3 things on the screen. If you want to create more, you can create more. You can create add 4, 5, whatever you want to do, you can do it. Okay? And notice which one is easier to do. This way here, or the previous way, we define the object and then assign the attributes. Both are okay, but if you know you need these values, then you make it part of a constructor, because we cannot have a ball without a brush. We cannot have a ball without size. Yeah, you might have a ball with 0, 0 position if you don't give X and Y, but you need what? You need to give these values every time you want to create a ball. So that's why we make it part of a constructor. All right? So that's the end of this review session about default and non-default constructor. Okay? So I'm going to stop recording and I'll answer your questions if you have any.